Hey everyone, it's Andrew with Memberium, and today we have the pleasure of talking to Paul Bright from PB Digital in sunny Queensland, Australia. And today, Paul is going to be walking us through an awesome membership site that he's built with BuddyBoss, Memberium, LearnDash, Elementor, and a few other plugins. Paul, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, we're really excited to show everyone this site. And to give you a bit of an introduction here, when I first saw the site that Paul's about to show us, I was really blown away by everything included with it. I especially liked the different gamification pieces in it, how they're all put together, and just the whole experience of kind of going through the site is next level. This is a great example of the type of powerful site you can build with Memberium, LearnDash, and the other plugins involved. And the other really cool part about this is Paul isn't just going to be showing us what this membership site looks like. He's also going to share how you can build the same type of site yourself, even if you don't consider yourself necessarily a WordPress or coding expert. If you just want to figure out some ways you can better gamify your course or membership site, you'll also get some ideas you can use throughout this video. And I should mention, Paul does have a step-by-step tutorial and some downloadable files for this site that will walk you through how to set the same site up if you're interested in that. And then in this video, we're just going to give you a high-level overview of the site and talk about some of the things Paul's learned along the way. And so just to give you an introduction for those of you who don't know Paul, he's a super talented web designer, WordPress and Memberium expert. His company has worked with clients like Jay Shetty, Cole Joseph from Cole's Classroom, and lots of other successful business owners. Paul has been kind enough to give us an inside look at this site and share some of the things he's learned after building so many membership sites. So Paul, before we dive into the site, can you tell us a little bit about your business, how you got started, and where you are today?
Yeah, so no, definitely. I think you've summed it up really well. I guess the way I got into this, like, so kind of going back a number of years ago, 5+ years, I was actually a financial planner, but I could always do some coding and things, and I wanted to start like a home-based business, and so on the side I was kind of learning how to do online marketing and whatnot. So I kind of built this like learn to play guitar site, which was kind of my entrance into this whole world. And so I was kind of, and I guess having that coding background, that experience, and I was able to kind of do some things and kind of adding different functionality and kind of pulling, trying to do different things, connecting to the Infusionsoft, via its API, just trying to tweak some things, and and then it was just kind of from that, and building up and learning things and trying new things and whatnot, and really just using Guitarist Academy, which is kind of my little thing I do on the side as a bit of a kind of a testing ground. Essentially we had people kind of reaching out, or I'd see people in, the different groups, the Memberium group, kind of saying, oh, how do I do this? And so we kind of started connecting with people, and, we were just trying different things. And I guess one thing led to another, and where essentially an agency was born. And obviously that, is something that's kind of progressed over, a number of years, but it's one thing, that, I really enjoy this type of work. So it's been really kind of good to, being able to connect with other people who are much smarter, especially with the marketing side than I am. And then seeing what, they were doing, to kind of grow their business, and then kind of combine that with kind of what I knew and my tech experience and the coding, and then thinking of, kind of working with them in the gamification. It's like, how do we take things to that next level? And, getting there, because I found that a lot of people would have these ideas that they wanted to do and implement, but not sure how to do it. There's not that, for example, there's not a off-the-shelf kind of plugin that does it, or there might be a plugin that does it but doesn't, and only does 80%, and it's that missing that 20%. So like, how do we kind of either use that plugin and customize it, or how do we kind of leverage different technologies to to kind of implement the things that they've dreamt of adding to their site. And I guess it's just one thing led to the other, and this is kind of now what we do, and we've got myself and a team as well that kind of help out, and from designers to developers. And so it's not just it's not just myself kind of wearing all the hats. It's other people who are kind of helping out, and it's been really good.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so when was it that you got started with Infusionsoft?
I think it would have been Sort of 2020, maybe 2014, 2015. Like, and I
Oh
was
wow.
literally just a user. And so that was just kind of me playing around. And it's funny because my business at the time really, wasn't suited to Infusionsoft. It's just doing a little bit on the side. And, but, I think what drew me to Infusionsoft, especially back then, was the campaign builder. And I think I was using Aweber or something back then. And so, I'm like, oh, there's got to be a way that, if someone joins or becomes a customer, that we can do different marketing to them, and so, you go digging and you find out Infusionsoft, was the big player in that space, and that kind of, so I'm like, so I made that jump into it. And, and then literally that's kind of how it progressed, and I became a certified partner. And then literally was just kind of working with different Infusionsoft users and over the years. So it was kind of something that I initially started off doing it on the side, and but it's essentially grown into the full-time business.
Well, that's cool. So to start us off, why don't you walk us through the site you've built from a member's perspective, and we can kind of go through there, and you could show us how it works.
Cool. We'll do it. Now, should I probably need to share my screen.
Beautiful. There it is.
Coming up.
Yep.
Perfect. In terms of what we've built here, so we've essentially built this. I guess it's a pre-made site, for lack of better words. So I wanted to kind of create something, and I was thinking, how do we make it really easy for someone who's either just getting started, in this kind of space with, Memberium, or a membership site or the e-learning portal. How do we, they just want to kind of like set something up really quickly. How can they kind of do that and, still have something that, that looks really nice? So for us, what we've built is we wanted to build something. It's almost like a plug and play type site. Literally, you install it, and as Andrew mentioned, I've got some kind of some training that goes through the step by steps. We've got like an installable file that you install one plugin, and then you upload the file, and it will kind of deploy the site, and then you just kind of add a couple of extra plugins to it. And literally within, hopefully 5, 10, 15 minutes, you've got this site that looks exactly like this. And so and the reason we've kind of laid this site out and kind of go through it. So it's in terms of what we've actually kind of built here that, and again, you could go and change and make it your own essentially. Is we have this kind of dashboard, and for me the dashboard is the hub of a site. So when someone logs in, usually the dashboard, or you can call it the member homepage, there's all these different kind of terms for it. I like to usually refer to it as a dashboard. How do you kind of leverage that space and make it, something that I think looks nice, but also something useful? How do we kind of then take people from this to the other areas of your site? So there's a few ways you can do that. Obviously, it's through the navigation at the top, but also you can leverage the items here on the actual particular screen, on this member home screen or the dashboard, to also do that same thing. So, in terms of this kind of template that we've created here, you're essentially, someone comes in. And so for us, I always have that, that nice little welcome message, welcome to, and you'd put your site name in here, welcome to Guitarist Academy, welcome to PB Digital, welcome to Cole's Classroom, whatever it may be. And then you can have some supplemental text, and all this can be changed. Then, you can kind of, then the next part here is, the continue learning. So this is, for us, in terms of this site layout and what we have here, the features are, it's an e-learning site, so it's got some courses. We've added like a little forum there. You could add a shop here, and some of these are, because this is just a bare bones type, starter site. I just open these up. You'll see that we've just put some kind of templated type, just some kind of dummy type text here. And that's why you see this lorem ipsum. So if you see that, I've got some people saying, oh, what's this lorem ipsum? Is that, is that kind of some sort of, some other language? And it's just, some kind of placeholder, content here. So, that's just the goal for, you'd be able to kind of come in and literally you can change that out to read whatever you want, or you can even take it out. But what we've got here is, so we want to try and, like, again, using this concept of a member home, trying to take people to different areas of the site. How do we do that? So the first part here is we're trying to get people to go to the courses and engage in the courses. And you can see here, it says that there's no courses. I haven't started anything. So this is some little custom elements that we've added here in the dashboard. And again, you can, no coding needed. You can grab this and you would have this set up. But literally as a user, they can kind of come in here. They could click on that. It would then take them to the kind of the course library. And again, we've just put some placeholder type courses in there, and then they could go through. But once they start a course, it then changes. So let me kind of quickly.
Okay, that's interesting. That. And to clarify, these are LearnDash courses?
Yeah, correct. So these, and again, we've just put these as little starter things. There's no actual content themselves. We've just done a layout, and actually because we were using BuddyBoss, the BuddyBoss theme, so we're kind of grabbing, this is some of the demo content they had, and we've just kind of moved over as well. So the goal would be that once you set this up, and again, I kind of covered a bit more in the training as well, but once you install the things, the theme, but essentially the file that will install the theme, the plugins for you. One of the steps you'll certainly want to do is change out, either delete the ones that delete the courses here, unless if you're selling a course, MBA in a box, you most likely will want to change that, and you can either rename the course and rename the modules and whatnot, or delete it and add your own. And then what will happen is any course that you add is going to dynamically add in to this kind of section up here as well. So, on the courses screen, so anything you add will literally just show up here. And this page here is actually part of, BuddyBoss's courses. And then if you restrict it, you can then, using Memberium, you can, protect, the course. And then depending on how you do that, it will hide off so people can't access the courses they can have access to. And you can even then take it to the next level where you've got, you show the ones that have been locked and the ones that people can access. And I can show an example of how we've tweaked that and done it in a different spot. So cool to see. In terms of okay, cool. So I'll show you quickly here. So this is the dashboard now. You can see no courses. Let me just kind of, as a user, let me just start this course. I'm just going to mark some stuff here as complete.
And if you had a video as an example, your video would go in the content area there. But since this is a starter site, nothing's there to clarify for anybody. So really starter, really basic. Obviously, I can show you an example, but with some content in it. It's almost like how we've taken this kind of almost this package, and then how we've then kind of customized. But the only thing is we have put some extra customizations into it. Yeah.
But yeah, of course you could add a video here. Anything. Yeah.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you there. The other cool thing that you've done with how you've customized the BuddyBoss theme is the progress bar at the top and kind of the points that get awarded each time a lesson is completed. I thought that was really cool. And also the coins, I believe.
Yeah.
The coins are through Gaming Press that you've added there.
Spot on, yeah. Yeah, correct. So I actually forgot to even mention this. So yeah, one thing that we added into this theme here was, so this like the levels, the points, the coins, that's all Gamer Press. And that's how you say it. I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but that's what I call it. And so, even in the back end, just super quickly, you'll see that under dashboard, under Gaming Press, we've got our levels, we've got achievements and the goodies and the badges, and so there's even the point types, which are the points that you see. So the one thing I think is how do you kind of keep that and how do you get it so people are seeing that the points are increasing? So as you see, if I mark this complete, these points will increase because I've set up when someone, and you can see we added like a little animation. So if you kind of check out here, and again, there's no content here, but if I mark it complete, you can see I'm on 650 points. When I mark it as complete, it'll go up to 750 because I think I did 100 points per lesson. And you can customize that and do anything you want because this is literally, it's in the site here. And again, the training we've got goes through how to customize this, but you can customize the levels and, at what point can someone essentially level up. And then, in the points, how many points do they get for completing certain items? And, and the thing with GamerPress is it makes it really easy because you can set these, within minutes, you can say that, hey, if someone completes a lesson, let's give them 100 points. If someone completes an entire course, then let's give them, say, 250 points. If someone logs in, let's give them another, say, 200 points. It's up to you what you set. But then you can also set criteria like, okay, we don't want you to keep logging out and logging in and logging out and logging in to try and keep boosting your points. So you can set restrictions that, hey, you can get 100, the 200 points for logging in, but you can only do that once per day. You can do, if you've got a forum on your site and you want to try and engage people and have people taking part, in doing forum replies, or when they make a comment in the forum or post a thread. All again, this is part of GameImpress, but you can say, hey, every time you post a comment in the forum, we'll give you 100 points. And so the whole point with gamification, if you're kind of new to this area, is really like, how do you build in game mechanics? Typical games that you would find on, in the App Store for your phone, or on PlayStation, or Xbox. It's how do you build in these kind of game mechanics into like an e-learning site to just try and make it more fun, a little bit more engaging. And like these points at the end of the day, that you don't get anything for these points, and even these coins here where you can actually unlock some goodies. And I can show you, because there's my other page here, because you can see here. Let me close a few of these screens because they're getting confusing, but we did a way where you can get these goodies, like you own these coins. And again, so you can, so the way that we did it was every time you level up. So I was on level 1 before, and I think was it 500 points I needed to get to go to level 2. But every time I've leveled up, I get 10 coins. And then what we can do here is I've actually set it up. And again, this is everything you see here is just one file away for you. So it's kind of, because we've added a bunch of custom things in here, but it's literally just kind of one click away, a few clicks, but it's kind of there. But so with these these coins here, so in the case, and you can customize this again, so you could say if anytime you complete a course, you get 20 coins, and it's just a way of trying to make it a little bit more fun. So what we said is, you can click here, which takes you to this section in your profile, and this is the member profile kind of area now, where they can set like a background image here, and they can put their avatar and change their name. And I'm just logged in as admin, but I can use my coins to unlock different items in here. And these items are in the back end. It's still part of GameImpress, but you can see I can unlock this with 10 coins. And so let me just show you. If I try and unlock this, and if I don't have enough coins, it's going to say, sorry, you couldn't do it. But also we added a little shortcode here. So the only thing is they've got to refresh the screen. So it's something kind of on our thing that we want to add. But see how this kind of extra content's now showing? And so what you can do is I could have changed this. So instead of just being we just had like a place, again, it's just a placeholder item. But it's, we could have had an ebook there, and or a special videos. Like if it's in the guitar space, I could have, had a video like the top 10 chords you need to learn. And so, and people can then, use their coins to unlock this bonus content. And so it's kind of, we actually can protect it. So it's only showing this content, and this could be a video, it could be a link, it could be anything. And again, probably a bad example of this, but you can use those coins to unlock items, and this could link to any, like a bonus, like a downloadable workbook. And so you can actually not just have virtual items, but you can actually do some value, add some value, some valuable content that people can unlock by taking part in the site. And that's what I think kind of gamification is all about, is really just trying to get people to kind of engage with the content and just trying to make it a little bit more fun.
Yeah. All those little things kind of add up together to make it a lot more kind of enjoyable experience, and get people going through more of your course than they would without it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and that's right. And so, now you can see some of these, because it's a little bit weird here, this, because they don't, these ones don't have actually any content. But if you notice now that this section is now changed as well, because I started the course, and now it's now showing the course, and I can see so what I've actually got in progress, and I can literally then click on this, so it's kind of a way of saying, hey, you haven't started any courses yet. This going back to the dashboard, you haven't started any courses yet. Here you can, this is another one you can start, and that's one example. And we have another dashboard, which is what I was showing before. And another area we added with some the latest courses. Again, you could take that out because it's, somewhat similar. It's both there. So I guess this section's, if you've ever used Netflix, it says, continue watching. It knows the things that you've started, but you haven't finished. And that is what this section is. This is kind of like that Netflix idea of, being able to kind of pick up from where you left off.
Yeah.
And once this course is done, then it goes away. So, and, then we've got our latest courses. And again, it's just another way. Again, it's thinking of Netflix. It's, hey, these are our latest, or this is what's popular. You could do that. This is what's trending. So you could even put in the items that you wanted to show here. And then we've just got some stats here just to kind of break it up. How many points I've earned, how many courses I've got completed, how many badges that I've earned. And then we've got, again, thinking of the dashboard or the member home screen as the hub. How do we get people to other areas of the site? And we've got, a way to show and pull in the latest discussions. And again, we've just got some dummy data here, but yeah, that's kind of a way to try and get people to move over to this area of the site. And if I had other things in the site, we can then try and take people to those different areas as well.
What would what would some of those courses look like if somebody didn't have access to those courses through Memberium?
Yeah, so if you don't have access to it, by default, it's going to hide off the screen. Like it just, that's kind of the good thing about Memberium is it's, if you don't have it, it just assumes, you don't actually even see it's there. So, that from a content protection standpoint, that is really, really cool because at least people can't access the courses that they, haven't purchased or they don't have access to. The downside sometimes of that is they don't know it ever exists. And so then sometimes it's really nice to be able to showcase, those things that they don't have access to. And at this stage, and it's actually something that I want, I'm going to look at adding to this kind of essentially our starter site, our template here is a way of doing it. Did you want to show you an example of where we've done this?
Sure. Yeah, I think that would be useful for everyone. And so you'll see a lot of similarities of kind of our test site to this site where we've kind of implemented those kind of items, and same idea, no courses, but once I add courses to it, it will then show up. Had to pick the access or the test user where I've got no courses. Normally well, that's okay. I guess you could see there the examples of the ones that they don't have access to. They're locked.
Yeah. That's it. So let's say if I've got access to just, I don't know, one of these courses here, it would literally show up in this kind of section here. And normally when someone gets access to it, they've actually got a course, that's usually how they get access to it. So you'd normally find, let's say 4 chords, 30 songs, or let's just say it was blues guitarist in 21 days, that would show up here, but it wouldn't show down here. It's kind of like it's either going to be in this section or it's going to be in this one. And if you don't have it, then we show it and then they can click on it. And like, for example, if I click on this, then we've got like a little sales page essentially saying, hey, you can get all our courses and bonuses and things. So that's just a typical sales page that we're trying to then drive people to, join as a member. So, yeah.
That is cool. And then, so that's the part where Memberium's coming in and saying, if they don't have access, then display it as locked and direct them to your sales page.
Exactly. So your Memberium's controlling, so I've set on the back end, I've set the, what tag someone needs to have or membership level that they need to have on the courses. We've, then we have kind of done some custom work on here to kind of have it show in the 2 areas, but it would then say, this is based on the tag they have. If they have access to it, it shows up there. And if they click on it, they can access it. And if they don't have access, it's there. And then we redirect them to whatever page, is on the thing. So cool. In this case, to the sales page.
The other part that was really cool with the challenge site that you built is the your account area. Is there anything you think everyone would be interested in checking out there?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'll just try and log in as a test user. Yeah, because the thing is, how does someone manage their subscription? And so we actually built in here. Yeah, cool. So this is actually coming through. So as a user, they can come in here, and this is just using Memberium shortcodes. We've just layered it into, because with the BuddyBoss theme, it uses BuddyPress to, gets a bit confusing, but yeah, the BuddyBoss theme that we're using uses BuddyPress, and part of that is this is how they do their account setting. So I've kind of just leveraged off that, and then we've kind of supplemented that and added a subscription tab into the account area. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's it. And so again, on this part here, it's just nothing more than it's Memberium shortcodes, and we've just added some styling to have this kind of, because we wanted a particular layout. And so as a user, they can click cancel, they can change their payment info. Again, this is just Memberium shortcodes. So you guys made it really easy for us to do that. We didn't have to add any functionality or anything. It's just literally Memberium shortcodes here. And same with someone canceling, it's all Memberium.
That is cool. Yeah, the way you've laid it out looks really nice.
I borrowed the idea from Disney Plus. I was looking at that. So, and that's a lot of times what we do as well. Is we kind of go, if I'm looking for inspiration, it's like, and what works is I love to see what other people are doing, especially like the big guys, the Netflixes, the Disney Pluses, these really big providers, even Udemy and these kind of massive sites, and then figuring out, well, because my belief, I don't know 100% for sure, but I would imagine, they've got great budgets for testing user experiences. They'll be doing split tests and checking things to make sure it's engaging. So it's like, how do they lay it out? So this isn't exactly what they did, but it's based off Disney Plus, that they had a very similar kind of layout for the subscription. So I thought, well, that would why reinvent the wheel?
No, this page looks really nice, and I guess it's interesting too, when the cancel button is clicked with Memberium, you can technically automate, it will automatically cancel the user's paid subscription in Infusionsoft. And you could set that up where it cancels it at the end of the current billing period. So it's not where they cancel right away and their access gets cut off. It's where their access gets cut off, like at the end of their current billing period. Yeah. Another idea too is you could put a fake button there that leads to a exit survey that they have to go through to get some feedback on why they're canceling, or something you could do to try to save the sale at that point, and then at the end of the survey, just redirect them back to the the page where they can actually cancel their subscription through the Memberium shortcode. But I always find it fascinating that all that stuff kind of can run automatically or on autopilot. Same thing with that add credit card shortcode. Like when you add a new credit card, that automatically will get added to the subscriptions, and kind of everything else, how it runs automatically is always so fascinating to me.
I agree 100%. And what you said about, like literally just because, this is again, essentially like our demo starter site. So we just have it actually literally canceling the subscription. Like you mentioned, this is, as you can see, this is future dated. So, this is going to be canceled in terms of this test subscription it would be canceled on, June 27.
So with this site, you have quite a few different pieces involved. Can you walk us through the tech stack in building this site and some of the reasons why you chose the plugins that you did?
There's usually two themes that I use. So my first one, up until recently, has always been Astra, WP Astra. Like, I love that theme. It's fast, it's lightweight. For us, it's always been really easy to work with. There's been some themes, that we've had to work with, maybe the clients using them. But the two kind of that we love is, like us internally, is WP Astra and BuddyBoss theme. Yeah, Astra is really, really good. And typically that's our go-to is Astra. And so this kind of site that you're seeing, and same with Guitarist Academy, is actually running on the BuddyBoss theme. For me, if I was picking a theme, would be deciding one, I guess, is price point. Because Astra is free and it works really well. So that's, typically there. I guess it would be like, if I was ever planning on putting in a forum, using like BBPress or BuddyPress, if I was kind of putting any of those items on the site, I would then kind of move towards BuddyBoss, because they've got some really nice styling out of the box. Like, even if I just go to this discussions page, this is their forums.
Is that within the BuddyBoss social platform? The forums are included?
This is, I have to admit, I got really confused with BuddyBoss at first. Kind of like, so what BuddyBoss has is they have a plugin, not to be confused with the theme, because you can get the BuddyBoss theme and it's free, it's open source. And what they've done is they've taken like BuddyPress and BBPress and a few others, and they've kind of integrated within their own BuddyBoss plugin. And I guess that's because BuddyPress and BBPress are all open source anyway. So they've kind of, and that's why their plugin, the BuddyBoss platform, is a plugin which it basically has the functionality, has the forum functionality, but it doesn't have the, so you could use the BuddyBoss plugin, but without the theme, but it's going to look bad. It's going to look like how BuddyPress looks out of the box. And so the BuddyBoss theme, which is a couple $100 to purchase, it adds all the styling to it. And this is like what we see right here is literally their styling out of the box. So they've kind of laid essentially a UI on top of it, like a user interface to those things that make it look really, I think, really nice and really appealing. So, for a couple $100, you're getting, if you're planning on putting in forums and those kind of discussion threads like you see here, even under the account, like this profile section, this is all part of their kind of ecosystem. But it can be worth just investing that couple $100 because it just saves so much time.
Right. Yeah, and the time it takes to customize anything with BuddyPress or BBPress is really time consuming. So just buying the BuddyBoss theme just cuts all that.
Yeah. It's like I can switch this over. It's almost like I can even switch this over to Astra, and you'll just like see how significant the styling changes. It's just they've spent a lot of work and done a great job of it. But those are the two things, and it really just depends, I guess, on price point. But I think for the extra couple $100, it makes sense. But if you've got no plans at all to ever do, to do forums and that, then Astra's a great theme. It works really well. In terms of plugins, then we use, obviously Memberium is like on every site that we use. So definitely Memberium. LearnDash is usually another common one. I'm just trying to think of the other ones. GamerPress is the third one we'll typically use on pretty much every site, unless if they've, in the brief, there's no gamification at all, then we won't use it. But, usually I think 9 times out of 10, we've got, in terms of plugins, we've got Memberium, we've got LearnDash, we've got GamerPress. I'm just trying to think of anything else. There's a few others that we use, but that's depending if we're going to customize things. I really like advanced custom fields and a few other things, but they're a little bit more techy. Oh, Elemental, that's the other one I was thinking of, which is a drag and drop builder. Like, I love Elemental.
Right. That's our favorite.
I'm such a huge fan of it. Yeah. There's other ones like Beaver Builder and Visual Composer and Thrive Architect and whatnot. But yeah, for me, Elemental is kind of my go-to. I just love working with it. We just find it easy. And that's what this is kind of built on. So yeah, this is like an Elemental. We have like 2 dashboard styles, part of this site, but this is literally Elemental here. That's
cool. And then is that the LearnDash kind of course grid?
This is the LearnDash course grid. Yeah, so you can see this is just all Elementor. And, if I want to move something out, I can just literally, I don't want that text there. If I want to move things out here, but see, now this is, actually this one here, is our own shortcode, which comes part of the thing that we made and whatnot. And that was because if you don't have the course, it has that, that box, that kind of says,
or it's locked.
You haven't started one.
Memberium.
Yeah. So that one's a little bit different, but I think this one here is just, and this is just the traditional LearnDash course list. So that's just a LearnDash short code with their course grid add-on. Cool. And then we've got a few, GamerPress short codes, and that's why they look a bit funny here. We do have a couple of our own short codes, again, that are all part of that package that you can get. That's on the site. And
the discussions are cool.
And that's just a typical BuddyPress, BBPress, shortcode.
So yeah, it's kind of confusing because BuddyBoss has forked BuddyPress and has their own version of BuddyPress called the BuddyBoss social platform.
Yeah, that's it.
So yeah, within that, there's also BBPress is included within it, BuddyPress. It was about a year ago, and from my understanding, BuddyBoss has done a lot of work in improving goals in their BuddyBoss social platform. So in your experience, do you recommend people use the BuddyBoss social platform over using BuddyPress and BBPress on their own?
That's a great question. I think I probably would just use the BuddyBoss platform plugin thing because it is free. It's just the theme that you got to pay for. So I would just kind of get their plugin, put it in, because it's like I only have to install one thing instead of a whole bunch. And they have, like you said, they have been working on making it better. And there's been times we've had to reach out to their support team, and they're really responsive. And not everything, can be done, because obviously they've got their dev process. There's a few things that aren't perfect as well, but it's, again, it's getting better and better. It's like anything, sometimes there's bugs and sometimes there's things that need to change or features and whatnot. But yeah, like I think now if I was to, even if it was a brand new site and we were just using Astra theme, I probably would, and we had some sort of requirement for a forum or the BuddyPress type groups or the things that does, I think I'll just gravitate towards the
Got it.
The BuddyBoss plugin. Yeah.
No, that's good to know because I'm not that familiar with the BuddyBoss platform. Like I've never used it myself, so that's why I asked.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like I think we don't do many sites with BuddyBoss or like in terms of the forums and that, because a lot of people just kind of go towards like Facebook. Using Facebook groups is kind of the most common one, and because there's definitely an advantage of using Facebook groups. There's obviously some disadvantages, but so I found, I guess, Facebook groups have definitely taken over a lot of the things that sites would have forums and things for. I think so. I just find less and less we're doing kind of adding those to sites.
So I know that Memberium has a direct integration with the BuddyBoss social platform where you can add when a tag gets added, you can auto add them to different groups, and then you can also control access to the different forums and the ability to post based on which kind of membership level that somebody has. Is there any kind of Memberium stuff that you're doing with the, I guess, BuddyBoss social platform on this site, or it's?
It is. So we've got the BuddyBoss kind of social platform. We haven't done much in terms of like, because this is where it gets a little, kind of weird with a demo type site, because we had to be careful with what we restricted here, because we kind of go, here's a file, and so people could then upload onto their site. But there's another one where we did a forum, and yes, we did restrict, because that's always the thing, with you guys having Memberium, because it makes our life so much easier, because we can click a button type thing, and we can then hide, if it's like an insider circle, for example. I'm just thinking of an example. Someone has like, you can only access this particular forum or this particular BuddyBoss, or kind of group. And to have that, you can with Memberium, you just say, you need to have this this tag, and so those things definitely are really, really helpful. This particular site doesn't have that, but as you mentioned, it's so easy to add, and we can even go through it here. It's up to you, but yeah, so easy to do. Even like with your integrations, like with LearnDash, a popular one that we like to use. Again, not so much on this site, because again, I had to hook it to it like a Sandbox Infusionsoft account. But it's when someone completes a course or completes a lesson, having that apply a tag, which then you can then trigger, automation inside Infusionsoft. So you can set up different little campaigns that if someone completes a lesson, then you could wait a few days, and if they haven't completed any other kind of lesson, then you can send them a reminder saying, hey, you can pick up from where you left off, or hey, we noticed you haven't done it, you haven't engaged or haven't completed any lessons the last few days. You should get back in. And so those kind of integrations of applying a tag when someone does something then allows you to inside Infusionsoft then set up those automations and those campaigns.
You have a step-by-step tutorial that'll walk people through how to set up a site like this, along with some downloadable files and the custom child theme you've built here. We'll include a link to that. We'll include a link to that tutorial below this video for anyone who's interested. And so Paul, if you had to guess how long it would take someone to build a site like this with Memberium and everything you've shown, assuming they have all of their course content already together, how long do you think it would take somebody to build a site like this time-wise?
Using the file providers as well, like for that?
Correct.
Yeah. So I think once you've set up, maybe I would hope within if you had the WordPress set up, maybe within 30 minutes is kind of our goal to, and I still want to try and get that down lower. If you're really, really quick, maybe you can get that into 15 minutes. There's still some time to set up WordPress and some basic things. But like literally, and again, you'll see the link, there's that file you can download, and it is You've got to install a plugin, a WP all-in-one migration. You upload the file, and then it's done. Like once the file uploads, all of a sudden, you've just got to have WordPress set up first. But once you upload the file, the child themes are all installed. The plugins are also installed. It's just a few. You're just going to install Memberium and LearnDash and the BuddyBoss theme.
Yeah,
they're the three things.
Let's say, for example, if somebody's trying to add all of their individual courses, and lessons, and kind of get the Memberium stuff functioning, and kind of have a functioning site after. How long do you think it would take somebody to do that as a rough estimate?
So if you had the content, it's depending on how big the course is, how many videos, but I think you could punch through them and get through them pretty quickly. If it's something simple, like you've just got like a video per lesson, then maybe that takes an hour or something. Might be a little longer depending
probably
on
within a day.
I'm just trying to think. Oh yeah, for sure. I'm just kind of thinking, it's really just the process of kind of going into LearnDash, adding your course, or using the ones there and just renaming them. But you probably just add a new one. The LearnDash's visual builders so easy. Like literally, you could come into this site. I'm sure we won't go through it here, but you can go. You can go to courses just to show how easy this is. You can go add new. And the tools are just getting better and better and getting faster and faster. So you can have your course name goes here, goes here. You put some content here and some descriptions. Then you set your Memberium, information. And in the video training, I kind of mentioned things. You want to upload a course cover photo just to make it look a little nicer, and a featured image. So there's a few things you've got to do here, but very quickly. Maybe if you had all the assets already, you could do that within a few minutes. Then go to the builder, and then this is where you start building the course out. So you can have your module 1, module 2, and module 3, and then you can start adding these in, and it's very quick and easy. So I guess my process is when I add a course, I build the layout, and just using this this kind of LearnDash builder tool that they've included recently. I guess it's probably been a year or something now, and then you just kind of build the structure. And then I just go in, and then I just add the videos or the content. So yeah, I think definitely within a day, you can have courses up and running, and then there's just a little bit of a step on changing some of the content on the dashboard that we were looking at earlier, and that's literally just removing out some of that placeholder content or deleting the forum section if you don't want that. But yeah, I think within hours you can have a course up and running. If you've got the stuff there. I want to try and get it down into like under an hour. I just want to almost like plug and play. I just want it to be fast. So someone can kind of install, put some. It's just adding the content is really actually the part here. A lot of times in the part, and I think this is just as technology gets better. I think the theme helps out here that you can kind of install the file and it kind of deploys all the things you need. It's just really then at least then people can focus on, they're not having to worry about login pages or, creating brand new dashboards or setting up the subscription management. That's all been done. We're using obviously Memberium to do all this, but then, being able to kind of just then focus on, okay, let's add the courses in. And that's just really a matter of kind of building, like I said, giving it a name, putting some basic details, putting in the layout, and then just adding the videos or the whatever the workbooks or any supplemental writing or whatever your course consists of. You can just put that in.
Got it.
And then you're up and running. So yeah,
that is cool. Yeah, I guess another note. Oftentimes, the part that takes the longest when you're creating a new membership site or course is creating your actual content that's going to go in your program.
Definitely. Oh, definitely. I think if you can spend the time planning the content, like how is it structured, and I've got even just kind of was mentioning it before, I'll just more so on the content here, and this is just LearnDash. So this was a course that we broke down into these are our modules, so the fundamentals module, week 1, week 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But then as you click on it, they're broken down into, and you can see the video sizes, and I've tried to keep these, if you can try and keep your content 5 to 10 minutes, and then literally it's then just a matter of, if I go edit course.
That's cool. And
so
then
if we have our builder here, I can show you, I guess, one that was prepared earlier.
no, and then the example that you just showed on that previous page, is that how the challenge site lessons look like?
It's a little different. So this one, it's running on the same tech stack, and then we've pretty much heavily modified.
Okay.
We went through and changed quite a lot, purely because we were just we're thinking, well, how do we make this different to anything kind of out there? So, like, for example, I'll just show you the course on Guitarist Academy.
No, because the way you design the site is really looks really great.
And then, so we custom designed this, and then I think as you get to the end, it's going to tick things off automatically. Yeah, so kind of it automatically moves, ticks that off. And then if I click on here, I wanted to basically, with this, my goal was to, instead of having the page, reload, I wanted to keep it just here on the screen. And so, like, nothing reloads. It's all done kind of by Ajax. So this is kind of then getting into the really, I guess it's the more advanced, but it's the things that you can essentially build. So, we design the UI, in our prototyping tool, Figma. And then, we implement it, and, we have like notes here where you can add your own notes. And this is just some custom stuff we made, and it's, this kind of site that is, has a lot of, custom work essentially done. I liken it to a pool. Like in terms of, if you're looking at building a pool, if you have a pool, here in Australia anyways, you can kind of buy these kind of prefabricated type pools. There's like a fiberglass shell. They give you certain sizes, certain shapes. You kind of get those pools, you can put those in, but you're limited to, and that's what I would say that challenge site is. It's kind of like, here's what it is. But you can also then, the benefit of that is you can also then customize it, because this is running the exact same tech stack, just with custom UI and custom code on it. But then, this is probably more of a site where you could then go, what can we, if I wanted to, I want a pool with a waterfall and, to have a certain, like a jacuzzi built into it. This is, where you can start, getting in, like, and being able to customize. And I'll show you just something quickly on this. I know I'm getting a little off track, but we built this like fingerstyle challenge, and you'll see here it's like totally unique, in terms of like a path, and and if I go in here, then it takes me. And this is actually LearnDash. Well, it's a custom front end on the UI, but then it still hooks into like a LearnDash course to track the progression and handle things. But it's just, but again, it gives you that idea of, this is not going to be for everyone, but it's what just an idea of things you can add, like the waterfall to a pool. Not everyone wants it or needs it. It's just, you can do it if you want it. Yeah, and then it's like a path here, and then you click off and just quickly do one.
No, yeah, this is great, the way you've designed this and how this works.
Yeah, we've been doing a few more there, and we're like spin wheels that you can win points and things. So yeah, that's it's a bit of fun. Again, we just had some spare time and thought, what can we do that's different? We wanted to make it like, the inspiration on this was like, Zelda, like back in the day, those kind of games where you had this kind of quest and this map. It was kind of like, how do we and this is just trying to gamify this experience and just kind of make it a little bit different. So it's like, I feel like I'm, just trying to make people feel like they're going on a quest and they're working their way through. And, as you do that, you're learning how to play. In this case, this is a fingerstyle challenge. So you learn how to play fingerstyle guitar. So
I love it. That's cool. So if someone has an existing membership site or course on their WordPress site and they want to try to gamify it, but they don't want to have to completely rebuild it, what would you recommend to them in terms of what they could do, in terms of some easy things they could potentially add?
Yeah. So if you're thinking about your gamification and you want some easy things to add, by far, I think the best one you can do is adding badges or achievements. And so you can do that by, using GamerPress. It's just a plugin. It's a free plugin. They do have some add-ons, but their free version is incredible. it, you can, everything I'm doing here on this site, in the challenge site, and even on the guitar site that I was just kind of showing there with the gamification, is all GamerPress, just their free version of the plugin. Then, so so get that plugin if you haven't got it already. And then what you want to do is kind of come in here into achievement types and create one called like badge or badges. And so being able to give people like and award people badges by doing things, completing a lesson, not so much maybe a lesson, maybe completing their first lesson ever, they get a badge. Logging in for the first time, they can get a badge. Completing a course, completing 10 courses. These badges are a great way to, give people that kind of that. I say, the pat on the back, that kind of little dopamine hit, like, congratulations, you did something, here's an achievement. You have to be careful. You can't just kind of do it, for every little thing. So you got to have some, I think the key is to mix it up and make it so there's some easy ones to get, because you want to try and give people that quick win at the beginning. So anything you can do to just kind of give people, the first time they log in or the first few times that they're getting that, they're fit, they're getting, you're making it easy for them to do. Then, to get some badges, get, a few quick wins under their belt, and then, they progressively get harder to achieve. They've got to do more things. It's just getting that right mix, and it's but so right. Badges is a great one. Points are a good one. Would be another one to add, as they're getting points, and then combining that with some sort of leveling up system, similar to what we have here in the challenge site. That's a little trickier to implement, but it's still part of GamerPress and whatnot. So that's a good one.
That's good.
Then you can start combining leaderboards and doing things like that. If you've got fairly active site, you can have people as they do things, you can have leaderboards, and there's some add-ons for GamerPress that are very inexpensive. I think like $50. Where they have that functionality for you. So that's a good one. Then even like other gamification elements, things like progress bars. And so you will see like in the different sites, and LearnDash does this kind of natively, but having being able to show their progress, that if you can figure out some sort of way of of doing that. And again, LearnDash is going to do a lot of this, to make it easy. It will show how many steps they've completed, the percentage they've completed of the course. And that's why, like on the different sites, we've got these bars here. It's these progress items, and we try and put them, on the different sites. It's just to show that, because people will want to close that loop and then try and, you'll find that I'm almost getting there. I'll just do a couple of extra lessons and, and do that. So yeah, progress bars like, here. And again, this is just the LearnDash course grid. They show those progress bars. So that's another kind of easy gamification element to make sure that you've got on your site.
That's cool. Is there any other interesting lessons you've learned after working with some of your bigger clients that you think would be helpful to share?
Coming from someone where we do a lot of custom, technically when we come into a project, we're here to, we're working with people usually who've got like a 7-figure type business, or, and they want to take it to the next level. They really want to, they want something kind of different than other people. So, we come in with custom design processes and things. But what we've found is sometimes just keeping it simple is better. Just trying to, scale things down, figuring out what is the core elements, and then just, focusing on that, because you can get caught up in like, we need this feature, we need that feature, we need this feature, let's add this, let's add that. But, and I can actually say from experience, because we did track some of this, we were adding all these kind of new features, and this was actually for Cole's Classroom. We were adding a whole bunch of things, but none of them, it wasn't in terms of like changing like a churn rate or stick rate. It just wasn't having an impact. It was enhancing the experience, but there was no measurable difference. But having but just keeping it sometimes simple, focusing on the core elements, and then just, and also asking if you've got an existing client base, what do they want? What training do they want? How can, sometimes just asking them is the best way to come up with the ideas. Yeah.
And so would you be able to elaborate on what some of those core elements are that for instance, with Cole's Classroom, that they ended up focusing on?
Yeah, so we were adding all sorts of, we had like spin wheels, and I kind of saw it on the the guitarist site, there was that spin wheel example. You know, again, it's a fun thing, but it's not going to stop people canceling. You know, it's just a bit of fun. So with Cole's Classroom, we went from having 2 WordPress sites. So to give a bit of context, so we had, you know, the typical 2 WordPress and members, like there's a membership site and then the core site. And then we went in and overhauled because our goal was to integrate everything into one site. So, and it was really just a matter of trying to expose all of the member content and expose it to the public, but then obviously have it locked down. And I can actually show you an example. So when we came into this site and, you know, when we kind of went through that project, we really figured out, well, what are the core items? What is it that makes this site, you know, what it is? And, you know, they've got like 10,000 members, paying members. So it's a big site, in terms of, you know, users, revenue and whatnot. So, but we found it's that core content and also the community. Now they do it through Facebook, but definitely, you know, I think it's, you know, the content. And so we've got like courses here. We've got like a training vault, which is essentially like a collection of videos. So every, you know, couple of times a week, usually they'll put up some videos. It could just be on a 10-minute video. It could be a longer video, like it could be an interview. It could be anything. And so they've got like a training vault. Then they have this backstage pass where you go behind the scenes with, you know, a photographer, and then you kind of learn how they do it. And so, like, if I was to go into the courses, but literally that's what we found was the core things. It's really just the content and the community. And also you're then having like the shop, and, you know, there's some tools here, and we're doing like a photo contest. We've built out, you know, so people can upload a photo and they're going to have a contest. So we've built things like that too. But again, it's all just trying to part of the community and the engagement. But even you'll see here, this actually doesn't have any gamification outside a few basic things like badges and whatnot. So, you know, if I just go into one of these courses. So with this, again, this is all public facing. So,
okay, so you can access the first lesson.
Yeah, so and so, you know, the first lesson on every course is accessible to the public, and then, you know, anything else you've got to kind of upgrade to a membership, and like even backstage pass.
And so, just to go back to that example too. So since somebody doesn't have access to that video, then you're able to display that message. You're able to display that message through Memberium.
It's LearnDash. So the tech stack is exactly the same as what I mentioned before, you know, in those other sites. We've got Memberium. We have LearnDash. We're not actually using GamerPress on this site at the moment. So it's something we're kind of toying up whether we add, you know, the points and things back. Then we've got, you know, we've got some other plugins, but they use Visual Composer on this one because they already were using it. And yeah, that's really it. So like Memberium is what's controlling this. Now we do have, you know, we modified, we basically did our own UI for LearnDash. So, but if I go into like, again, just mastering weddings, you know, this is LearnDash essentially, but it does have, you know, we've just done our own custom LearnDash page.
Yeah.
If you look up here, courses, you know, that's the URL kind of slug of for LearnDash courses. So yeah, this is just a LearnDash course page. Yeah.
What happens again when you click on one of the protected lessons?
Yeah. So we don't actually show it. Do a background video.
And then
and then we go to a sales page.
Are you using a default excerpt there over the?
Yeah, correct. So,
cool.
You know, we could customize it. So we've gone, essentially, you know, we just, you know, I guess one way we could say, hey, I'll unlock Mastering Weddings e-course. And, you know, one of the ideas we were playing with, but we didn't actually implement in the first kind of version of this, was you could actually, you know, join the membership. And there was another section here that would say, or buy this course for, you know, $199 or whatever the course price was. So we're going to give people that option. And then we were just trying to implement, you know, times, you know, we had to, you know, sometimes you just got to cut some things out and focus on the core things. Yeah.
That is really interesting. I was going to ask from a sales and marketing perspective, what was done to also kind of grow things, but it seems like just allowing people to kind of click around and see what's included in the membership is kind of another factor that helps kind of take
Yeah.
Cole's Classroom to the next level. Am I right about
Ye-
that, or am I?
Yeah, no, correct. So yeah, and one of the things was like, how do we expose? So we're having a chat with Cole, and he actually mentions like, when we talk about the membership side, if someone just comes to the site, I'm talking like someone from, because they're focusing on SEO traffic as well. So under
Mhm.
here, under tutorials is essentially their blog. So, they're getting a good number of organic traffic. Thousands of people a day coming to, from finding them from Google, or, someone sharing an article. And then it's like, but, if you don't know that there's a membership site, or you don't click into the, to try and go to a sales page, you're kind of not, you don't, as a person who's never maybe heard of Cole's Classroom, or, you don't know what there is, and kind of even also what you're missing out on. So that was kind of the prompt. And we're like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we could somehow integrate all the member content that we had on a separate WordPress installation, put it into the main site, but then, it's almost like teasers, so that, you see those people at the store, hey, do you want to try some honey, or, try, this loaf of bread, it's a sample. And that's what we wanted to do. So we wanted to expose everything. So all their content, so their content again is made up of courses, typical Loan Dash courses, the training vault, which are those kind of videos, and the Backstage Pass. They're all kind of their main content areas. But people didn't even know about this Backstage Pass. So, now we hope that, people can go around, and the kind of the next area is like, how do we, so the next thing we're focusing on for them is, on their blogs and their articles, how do we then, insert ads and things that can, promote, if you're on that would certainly make sense to have some sort of ad that promotes the Mastering Weddings e-course. And then, we could link, to that course, and, then people could see, and obviously they only get the preview, but then naturally they might, it's an extra opportunity where they could actually, upgrade, and they say, hey, there's this course and it covers this, and I can see it, but I can't, access it. So same with this Backstage Passes, you get to kind of follow along and go behind the scenes of actually like a real life photo shoot. And then so as users, if they kind of, again, I'm not logged in, so anyone can do this. So you always go to colesclassroom.com, have a look. But if I kind of go through here, we do the first, I think it's 3 minutes. You can watch the first 3 minutes,
Okay.
and then what happens is it blocks it. Did you like this video? Join Cole's Classroom to continue watching. And so then we kind of, here's a sample and a bit of a teaser, and then it blocks it. And same with the download. It's available to members only. So, and we're using Memberium. Like Memberium is what's telling, so we've done obviously custom code here, but you're using literally Memberium functions. But yeah, it's so, and they're just using
that is cool.
Vimeo. And so, we're using that combined with Memberium. Memberium is telling us, does this person have access to this particular content? And if so, then they can watch it and they can download the resources. If not, then we do this. And it's basically the same deals here on the training vault. So you can sort by what's the list, but it's basically the same idea.
That's cool.
What's going on. So, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people, when you're blocking off your membership to all public traffic or, free traffic, you're kind of selling a mystery membership. And it's hard for them to really understand your membership without being able to click around and see through it. You can try to explain it well on your sales page, but it's a lot different when you allow them to actually click around and see what's included. And this is a great example of that. So there was the before where everything was gated off, and then you shifted everything to this site where everything's kind of open, but still locked. What was the difference, I guess, before and after? You mentioned you were it was kind of at the low 7 figures before.
What we did find, and it's been a few months since I've actually looked at like the numbers there, but we were kind of somewhat tracking the number of people who were just engaging, and there were definitely they were at the time, this was kind of early on in the piece, there was hundreds of people kind of taking it. There's going to be, I'm sure, thousands of people now doing it as well. And that was literally just from exposing the content, to the public.
No, that's cool. That's great. And then so for anyone who's interested in building a site like the one that Paul's shown us, we've included a link to Paul's video or the video tutorials directly below this video, and a link to where you can learn more about Paul and his company, PB Digital. And so if somebody's interested in what you're doing and possibly working with you, is there anything helpful you think they should know before they reach out to you?
Yeah. So I think by far, if you're just starting out, or even if you've got a site and you want to take things out, come to the site. Again, as you mentioned, there'll be a link there, or you can come to the site here, and there's this challenge. So we've got the videos. You don't have to opt in. You don't have to do anything. Just here's some videos here. There's some like a downloadable resource. So just kind of go through this, start out, and you'll kind of go through the process, and hopefully very quickly you'll have a site set up similar to what we've kind of been demoing, and you just literally you can get to the point where you focus. So I think if you're starting out there, if you're just starting out, or that, this would be I think, in my opinion, the best place to start. And then I guess for someone who's wanting to typically we find with our clients who come to us, they're like, we have this idea that we want to implement. They're coming to us, they're usually established, they've got the existing users, so the users are telling them what they want, and they're like, we want to do this, or we want to build something that just doesn't look like anything else out there. We want something custom, we want something to look a certain way, but there's no theme out there that does it. And so that's when we typically then will get involved with them, and then, because we go through like a design process. So our process certainly isn't for everybody. And typically for people just starting out, it's, to be honest, it can be a little overkill. But, that's where I think something like this kind of for us was bridging the gap between of what we were doing. We were the custom pool builder type idea, but not everyone needs that. You just something, just need if you just need a pool that looks nice and is easy to put in, and this is kind of it. And obviously, if you need help, just contact us, and we're more than happy to help you out with anything as well that you're stuck with.
That's great. And then, so if someone's interested in getting in touch with you and talking with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so literally, if you come to kind of the site here, you can do a couple of things. So you can just kind of click on the get in touch, which is just a contact form that will send it through. If also you can actually schedule a call. So you can just go through there. There'll be a little form to fill out, and then we'll get in contact and arrange a time and have a bit of chat. And even if you just want to have what I like to call like a virtual coffee and a chat, it's more than welcome to do that. We love chatting to people about this. So and obviously anyone watching this who wants to do that, more than happy to do that and have a chat. But just go to the site, and then either just like a free strategy call. We've got those, and we can have a chat, or you can even use that as a discovery call, or just bounce some ideas around. More than happy to chat with people about that. So I think that would be the best way, is just coming here, clicking on this button here, or the get in touch. Ideally this one, because I will go through the process to book that kind of strategy call or that chat, and then we'll get in contact.
All right, well, awesome. We really appreciate you sharing everything you did with us today, Paul. That was awesome. And thanks so much for joining us.
You're most welcome. Thank you for having me. It's been great.